luxury, which is a category Tiffany's in, is one of the most attractive categories for the long term. It's very un-Amazonable, and as we think about China and gifting, that's a huge long-term growth opportunity as well.
It's interesting, Oliver, and you make a good case for the 160 to 180 sort of valuation, but the markets don't seem to believe that at all. I mean, the stock is trading up to 128, which is not much more than the reported bid that's on the table. Why do you think that the market doesn't see 160 to 180 at this point?
I think it's a bit of wait and see in terms of this bid and this process being very new, and there's uncertainties. A deal may or may not happen. There may or may not be other bidders, and it's already up 30% from Friday. So the market's reacting. There remains more to be seen. I mean, we're out there with this view because I believe luxury assets are very valuable, and we do have an outperform rating on Tiffany because this franchise is very difficult to replicate. This is once in a lifetime in terms of this asset being available in the marketplace, and what we're seeing in this whole space is both fragmentation as well as consolidation, and major luxury players like LVMH, Richemont, Kering kind of evolve and really need to speak to new customers in a digital age as well. So there's many forces at play, but a lot's going to be happening, and the stock will be highly volatile over the next few weeks or months as well.
Oliver, you mentioned that this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, but it's not really. I mean, Tiffany's been hanging out for a while now, you know? So who else might this be an attractive asset for if this is the moment to pounce, so to speak?
Yeah, it's a big moment because this hard luxury asset will really enable somebody to compete against Richemont and Cartier. All the luxury players being big players, it's important for them to have exposure to jewelry. As we think about Tiffany, Tiffany has a big watch opportunity. Less than 1% of total revenues is watches, and other product categories as well. And also, other players really like Tiffany's bridal business. It's a little bit tougher for players like Bulgari to be authoritative in diamonds and bridal's a great category as other countries really use diamonds as well. So these are coveted assets. I think there will be other strategically interested bidders. There could be financial buyers, but as we think about the math and the fundamentals around the discounted cash flow, a lot of the strategic bidders will have the most revenue synergies as well as cost synergies. Mathematically, and as we look at our income statement, the operating margins are lower at Tiffany. They could be higher.
You've tantalizingly mentioned the possibility of other buyers, strategic or financial. Who might they be?
Yeah, I think we look across the landscape in terms of like who are the large luxury players. They are Kering Group, which owns Gucci, as well as Richemont, which is Cartier and Van Cleef, and then you have LVMH, which owns Bulgari. Those are the major players, but the reality of the analysis is how much debt capacity and financial free cash flow these business models have. As we did our analysis this morning, Louis Vuitton generates $5 billion of free cash flow, and their leverage ratio is pretty modest at 0.8 times. So it's both EPS accretive, and they have the financial capacity to do it at LVMH. Those are very good places for LVMH to be, and they'll get strategic synergies. So the question is, how do you split up that valuation to shareholders, and what happens in this process over time? It'll be dramatic and interesting.
Oliver, real quickly before we go, if this moves forward, maybe even if it doesn't, but who do you think, is there someone now that this kind of triggers a, hey, these are the next names that might now be up for grabs to you in the retail space, or is this a unique situation?
Yeah, I really think like we're living in an age of brands, and we're having both fragmentation and consolidation. As we look to other players, it's who's un-Amazonable, who has a great heritage, and other brands in the marketplace. So in the handbag space, in the outerwear space, these are all categories with good growth characteristics, and we've seen some nice pockets of growth in beauty too, where brands matter, and Walmart's been doing M&A as well. So the emotions, the innovation, the cultural relevance, the digital intensity, and digitally native brands have been acquired too. So rethinking brands and the power of brands and how brands can extract pricing power, these are all themes we're pursuing in a lot of our work.
All right. Come back anytime you want to name names. Oliver, thanks very much. Appreciate it. Oliver Chen of Cowen.
Sure.
All righty, up next on Power Lunch, we will get you ready for today's big after-the-bell earnings. Google among them. Our traders will tackle that one next. And a big bounce for Bitcoin, briefly getting back above $10,000, up 14% in just 1 week. It had been tumbling. Is the rebound for real? We'll be right back.
Market Access is opening emerging bond markets.
London, switch to Vodafone, the UK's best mobile network, and Be Unlimited, because the best phones deserve the best network and our new unlimited data plans. The future is exciting. Ready? Vodafone.
Max download speeds apply to unlimited data. Best network as voted by readers of trusted reviews. Terms at vodafone.co.uk/unlimited.
Hey, it's me again, the TV. Since my family gave me Now TV, there's no more endlessly searching for something they want to watch, because now I don't do filler TV, just killer TV. If my family want reality TV, I can fill that island-shaped hole. Sports, these games are unmissable. Get in. Or how about movies? I've got blockbusters. Now they can watch whatever they're in the mood for.
What's your TV got for you tonight? Now TV. 18 plus month passes auto renew, terms apply.
Swinging a long drive, left field. He's got one now. Kurt Suzuki gives the Nationals the lead.
The excitement of the Fall Classic is here, and you can hear every call of the 2019 World Series on TuneIn Premium. The action continues this Tuesday with Game 6 between the NL champion Washington Nationals and American League champion Houston Astros. Listen live at 8 Eastern as two of Major League Baseball's most storied franchises look to bring home the World Series title. The 2019 World Series is on TuneIn Premium. Hey NFL fans, can't watch the game? Can't be there? We've got you covered. With TuneIn Premium, you can hear every NFL game live as it's happening, or catch it later on demand, anytime, anywhere, all season long.
Far wing, elevates, triple bucket.
The roar of the crowd. The shot clock ticks down. Will the ball go in? The suspense is pure torture, but you wouldn't miss this for the world. And the replays just don't cut
the
it.
Sideline, the man fleet for three.
TuneIn Premium brings you every minute of the NBA season streaming live, so you can be there when it matters most. Hear it now, hear it live on TuneIn.
Fake in the lane, turnaround jumper from 8 feet is good on the
Search
right.
NBA today to start listening.
MSNBC is on TuneIn. Get up-to-the-minute coverage on news and events from around the world with MSNBC's live 24/7 station on TuneIn. At home or on the go, stay up to date on the latest news and political trends with MSNBC's full lineup of shows, including Hardball with Chris Matthews.
Hi, I'm Chris Matthews. Thanks for listening to MSNBC on TuneIn.
And The Rachel Maddow Show. Plus, when news breaks, MSNBC has you covered with live updates, expert analysis, and more. Search MSNBC on TuneIn today.
Welcome back to Power Lunch. I'm Mike Santoli at the New York Stock Exchange. Let's get a check on Alphabet ahead of its earnings after the bell today. The FANG stock ripping higher to touch all-time highs. That's from the Trading Nation team today. Todd Gordon of TradingAnalysis.com and Mark Tepper of Strategic Wealth Partners. Todd, Google, Alphabet is unusual among the FANG stocks because it is at a virtual new high. The others all, pretty good margins below their record levels. What does that tell you right now?
Right, Michael. I actually used that strength that you mentioned to add to my portfolio last week. I hold the stock, and as you just said, we've just been bumping up against this $1,300 region, and the rest of the FANGs have not. And I'll even point your attention to Google relative to the NASDAQ. You're even seeing Google outperform the NASDAQ tracking stock. So they're applying a $56 move overnight. If we get good earnings on the upside or downside, we shall see. They have a history of beating. I think they've beat the last 6 quarters. The last time they missed was Q4 of 17. So I like the stock higher. I'm taking it long into earnings.
Mark, the company does not really seem to massage the quarterly earnings report. There's been some pretty big reactions, positive and negative, to the numbers in past quarters. What are you expecting today, and how do you view the overall fundamental story?
Yeah, I'd expect good results. So we're long Alphabet, so obviously we like the company. And it's been one of the best FANG performers over the last 3 to 6 months, and I don't see it losing any of its momentum. I mean, it is the fastest growing company in the world with over $100 billion in annual sales. They're the #1 player in digital advertising, and companies continue to move away from traditional advertising towards digital. Their cloud business is growing at 33% year over year. Google Maps has over 1 billion users that haven't been monetized yet. And quite frankly, I think YouTube is an underappreciated asset. Nobody even talks about YouTube when it comes to streaming wars, but households are cutting the cord. They're getting rid of pay TV, and YouTube gives you the ability to still watch live TV if it's something you're interested in. So we like the stock.
All right, yeah, a lot of talk about the sum of the parts values for Alphabet, whether or not that ever gets to be part of the strategy to separate things out. Todd and Mark, thank you very much. For more Trading Nation, head to our website or follow us on Twitter at Trading Nation. Melissa, back over to you.
Mike Santoli, thank you. Ahead on Power Lunch, Tay-Tay's payday. First I was like, what is that? Taylor Swift. We're talking about Taylor Swift agreeing to headline Alibaba's big online shopping event just months after doing the same for Amazon's Prime Day. Are the haters going to hate her for this? Plus, clash of the clouds. Microsoft snagging a multi-billion-dollar Pentagon cloud contract right from under Amazon's nose. We've got the details next. And the CEO of secondhand clothing marketplace Poshmark will join us to explain the big business of hand-me-downs. All this when Power Lunch returns.
And now, the latest from tradingnation.cnbc.com and a word from our sponsor.
Overbought and oversold indicators are generally used differently depending on whether the stock is range-bound or trending. Look to buy a range-bound market when an oscillator, such as the RSI, falls into oversold territory and then moves back above it. Look to sell a range-bound market when the oscillator rises into overbought territory and then drops below it. I'm Lee Bohl, and Schwab is the better place for traders.
Okay. There's something for everybody this Halloween at Aldi. Dead good sweets, decorations, face paints. Be afraid. Be very afraid to miss out on these shockingly low prices. In store now. Everybody get to Aldi for an amazing Halloween.
Halloween's back. London, switch to Vodafone, the UK's best mobile network, and Be Unlimited, because the best phones deserve the best network and our new unlimited data plans. The future is exciting. Ready? Vodafone.
Max download speeds apply to unlimited data. Best network as voted by readers of trusted reviews. Terms at vodafone.co.uk/unlimited.
Hello? This is Dustin. I found something. Is anybody there?
We hear you, Dustin. With Sky Q, you can easily catch up on epic Netflix shows like Stranger Things and then watch award-winning Sky originals like Chernobyl. Get Sky and Netflix all in one place on Sky Q for one surprisingly low price. Just £25 a month. Visit sky.com and join today. Offer ends November 14th. 18-month minimum terms. Prices may change during contract. Requires Sky Q box connected to broadband. Set up from £20. Further terms apply.
Should we go halves?
I'll get this. Let me just get my card, which was in my pocket.
You can't control awkward first dates, but if you temporarily misplace your debit card, you can freeze and unfreeze it on our mobile banking app. Feel in control every day. Lloyds Bank, by your side. You can only freeze some transaction types. T's and C's apply.
Major League Baseball postseason is in full swing, and TuneIn Premium puts you at field level for every...
And it's a home run!
Single...
And gone!
Game.
And that gone, a home run!
With TuneIn Premium, catch every pitch of every inning of every Major League postseason game until the final out of the World Series.
0-2 pitch, little half swing, and it hit.
At home or on the road, Major League Baseball's postseason action is on TuneIn Premium.
And that ball is gone!
Upgrade today.
Touchdown, Minnesota! Grabbed by heavily covered.
Dives into the end zone for the touchdown.
Tonight, TuneIn has your Monday night NFL football with the Miami Dolphins at the Pittsburgh Steelers. Kickoff at 8:15 p.m. Eastern.
Quick throw, out to the side, Taysom Hill, across the goal line, touchdown!
But Robbie's got it airborne. Robbie Gold's field goal is good!
At home or on the go, hear the home and away call of every NFL game this season on TuneIn Premium. Upgrade today.
From the TuneIn Studios, I'm Fonseca with your daily sports update. On a day when the San Francisco 49ers moved to 7-0 for only the second time in franchise history, it was rookie defenseman Nick Bosa and veteran running back Tevin Coleman who made some history of their own. With their 51-13 domination of the Carolina Panthers, the Niners are 7-0 for the first time since 1990. The team was the only other one in franchise history to reach the mark, starting 10-0. More football? Well, it's happening tonight for Monday Night Football. Kickoff's 8 p.m. Eastern right here on TuneIn.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm Sue Herrera. Here's your CNBC News update at this hour. German Chancellor Angela Merkel and former IMF Chief Christine Lagarde praising outgoing European Central Bank Chief Mario Draghi for his stewardship of the euro. This at the ECB's headquarters in Frankfurt. Lagarde takes the reins from Draghi coming up on Friday.
The time has come for me to hand over to Christine Lagarde. And of course, I've said it many times, I'll repeat it now, I have every confidence that you will be a superb leader of the ECB. My goal has always been to comply with the mandate enshrined by the treaty.
A manhunt is underway for the gunman who opened fire inside a party in North Texas, killing 2 people and injuring a dozen more. About 750 people were inside the off-campus college party when the gunman started firing early Sunday morning. Former House Speaker Paul Ryan has launched a new nonprofit organization that he says will be focused on fighting poverty and increasing economic opportunities. He announced the launch of the American Idea Foundation this morning. You are up to date. That's the news update this hour. Melissa, back to you.
All right, Sue, thank you. Let's get a check on the markets and where we stand right now. As we mentioned before, a record-setting day on the S&P 500. Right now, we're up by 17.5 points, or 0.6%. The record high number, 3044, so we're just 4 points off of those session highs right now. The Dow Jones Industrial Average is up by 0.5%, or 132 points. Some leading components there. Microsoft off that Jedi contract, as well as AT&T on their strategic plan, and small caps up by almost 1% here.
All right, time now for our power movers, starting with Spotify, which is having its best day ever, just like me. The company beat on earnings and revenue and reported a jump in users. Roku higher today as Bank of America starts coverage of the stock with a buy rating and a $154 price target. The analyst saying the negative impact of new streaming services on Roku has been overdone. Sanderson Farms on pace for its biggest one-day gain in 10 years. Reports that China will lift its ban on U.S. poultry, boosting Sanderson, as well as Pilgrim's Pride and Tyson. Meanwhile, shares of Fitbit, as we've told you, soaring. Alphabet in talks apparently now to buy that company. This is a $5 stock, even with today's gain. Its all-time high, see if you can guess, 51, set back in 2015, Kelly.
Ouch. The oil market is closing up for the day. Let's go to Dom Chu at the CNBC Commodity Desk. Dom?
All right, so Kelly, oil prices were and maybe still are in a nice shorter-term uptrend, but it's been a derailed kind of a bit today. You can see here, West Texas Intermediate prices off by 1.5%, $55.80 the last trade there. World benchmark ICE Brent crude futures off by about 0.75%, $61.57. Now, on an intraday basis, those prices hit their peak not long after the opening bell for stocks. Optimism over U.S.-China trade progress and some more bullish activity around stocks helping the cause overall to the bullish side. That's being countered, though, by some data out of China that a measure of industrial sector profits fell. Traders in various asset classes will be focused on key quarterly earnings reports this week from energy companies, including BP and ConocoPhillips tomorrow, as well as ExxonMobil and Chevron on Friday. So, Tyler, energy sector hugely in focus today. Back over to you.
All right, thank you very much, Dom. The force apparently with Microsoft winning a big battle in the cloud wars, snagging the $10 billion Jedi Defense Department contract over Amazon. Now, that's a small amount of money for these two companies, but it could signal a big shift, and Josh Lipton tells us the story. Josh.
So, Tyler, we have some very differentiated capabilities. That is what Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella told me when I asked him about his fight for this big cloud contract over the summer. Turns out Uncle Sam agrees. The U.S. Department of Defense awarding that cloud computing contract to Microsoft. The contract, as you mentioned, could be worth as much as $10 billion over a decade. Today, jumping to a new all-time high. No surprise, Amazon is not happy, saying, "We're surprised about this conclusion. AWS is the clear leader in cloud computing, and a detailed assessment purely on the comparative offerings clearly lead to a different conclusion." Remember, both these companies already generate a ton of money with their cloud businesses. AWS, $9 billion in revenue last quarter alone. Microsoft's Azure business, an estimated $4 billion last quarter. This was a hotly contested competition. President Trump even weighed in, apparently telling former Defense Secretary James Mattis to, quote, screw Amazon out of the contract, and the fight might not be over. Amazon is reportedly considering a challenge to this award. Guys, back to you.
All right, Josh. Thank you, Josh Lipton in San Francisco. So with the Jedi deal all wrapped up, what does this mean for Microsoft, Amazon, and the rest of the cloud players? Here with us now to discuss the clash of the clouds is Kirk Materne, the Senior Managing Director at Evercore ISI. He covers Microsoft, and Alex Moazed, the CEO of Applico, an investor in Amazon, Microsoft, as well as Alphabet. Guys, great to have you with us. Kirk, I'm going to start it off with you. Numbers-wise, the case can be made that it's not a huge mover for Microsoft in terms of its Azure business, but in terms of winning future contracts, what do you think this could mean for the company?
Well, thanks for having me. And I think the main point for people to take away is really this is a validation of Microsoft's broader cloud strategy. While this is obviously a big deal, I think what it really shows people is that Microsoft can now compete for deals of this size, whereas a couple of years ago, I don't think that would have been the case. I also think a lot of the things that Microsoft is saying around hybrid cloud and a lot of their initiatives around that, even the acquisition of GitHub, I think all sort of brings us to this date where you have them winning a bigger deal. And you see it in the Azure numbers. Azure is obviously growing at 59% last quarter, and they are gaining market share from Amazon on a sort of growth basis. So in general, as an investor, what you want to take away is this is a great validation of what they've been saying and how they've been trying to execute against their broader cloud strategy.
And I think for Amazon, the question, Alex, is are they at a point now where they are in fact losing share, that they might have to compete on price, and the growth of AWS may not be as vibrant, or may never be as vibrant as it once was, sub 40% growth?
I mean, we've seen the growth slowing, but still Amazon has a lot of headspace beyond Microsoft number 2, Google Cloud number 3 in the space. I mean, I think the one part about the Jedi versus the difference about the general kind of AWS or Azure business is this idea of a network effect of these kind of app ecosystems, right? So that means that there's a winner-take-all dynamic if you look at an AWS or an Azure. And Amazon's still the clear leader in that. I think the DoD puts less of an emphasis on the value coming from this third-party app ecosystem, which wasn't factored in as much as it might be from a traditional business or commercial customer.
Mm-hmm. There is a possibility that Amazon could contest this decision that the DoD has made, alleging potentially that President Trump had a hand in tipping the decision towards Microsoft. Does that make you concerned as an investor in Amazon, Alex, that Amazon has gotten itself tied up into this political fray and is losing business as a result of it?
Potentially. I think the regulatory concerns with Amazon are legitimate when you look at how they treat third-party sellers on the marketplace. The Department of Justice and FTC have started to look into this more, as well as the EU. I think particularly for the AWS Azure battle, though, I'd say less so from a kind of political bias, in the sense that in the DoD's perspective, it's better to have two strong cloud service providers. The NSA contracted with Amazon last year. So it's better to have two strong players rather than be beholden to only Amazon in the cloud storage space.
Kirk, what does this do to the competition between the two in the cloud? Does it legitimize Microsoft in a way that it needed to be?
I'm not sure it legitimizes them any more so than the growth over the last couple of years has already helped legitimize them. I think to the earlier speaker's comments, this is a growing pie. So this isn't mutually exclusive. There's thousands of big contracts between these two companies, and really they're the leaders right now in the broader public cloud space. So I think it helps. It's a nice feather in the cap for the Microsoft team. Again, I don't think this is a deal that they might have been in position to win a couple of years ago. But as you think about the broader public cloud opportunity, there's going to be more than one winner, and Microsoft and AWS both are in good position. And I think for Microsoft coming at the market, whereas you were a very small portion of the overall market, you're now getting to be about half the size of AWS. It helps in terms of making sure that people think about you as these big deals come to market. Not that I think they would leave Microsoft out necessarily, but I definitely think it helps sort of just prove again it's sort of a validation of the broader cloud strategy.
Kirk, it's funny you say that because so you're saying Microsoft's still about half the size of Amazon in this business. At some point, we had talked previously about the kind of antitrust or monopoly concerns around Amazon having too much of the pie here. What happens if Microsoft ultimately does too well?
I don't see that happening. I think the enterprise software market in general is a very competitive space. Most businesses aren't going to sole source enterprise software in a big way. This has been a very fragmented market historically, even before the move to the cloud. So while I think in the cloud world you will have fewer vendors just because the need to scale puts more pressure on the infrastructure spend for those vendors, but I don't foresee that being a real issue for Microsoft anytime soon.
Last question, Kirk. Do you think Microsoft won this deal because Amazon is tied up in some of these political concerns, whether it be regulatory or a tiff with Donald Trump or the latest Capital One hack, questioning the safety of its cloud.
I couldn't speak to any of the political ramifications that went into this, but I would tell you Microsoft's scalability, the infrastructure build out it's had over the last few years has made it a valid, it was always going to be a valid number two or a choice for someone to make. So I don't know how to sort of weigh in on some of the political angles of that.
Well, you must be glad that Satya Nadella doesn't own the Washington Post.
that helps for sure.
All right, we're going to leave it there. Thanks a lot, guys. Kirk Materne and Alex Moazed.
And to the bond market now, where Rick Santelli is tracking the action. And Rick, the German bonds, they're almost positive. All right, maybe French ones.
Hey, listen, how do you make minus 33 basis points look like a high yield? Well, you start at the end of August at minus 71, so you're exactly right. Let's look at some 24-hour charts. 2-year note yields, 24-hour chart. We're hovering 2 basis points above Friday's close, but the best levels on a close most likely will be since the end of September, so all of the month of October. If you look at 10s, same scenario. And remember, this is going to be the highest close since the 13th of September. The last Fed meeting was the 17th. To put some perspective, 10s minus 2s reflecting that at 20 basis points. That is the best level we've seen since the end of July. And finally, let's look at what's going on with regard to 10-year over the last 9 trading days, 2 weeks. It's been sideways, except for today, bit of a breakout. And part of that, as Kelly referenced, is the ongoing rise in yields in Europe. Tyler, back to you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Santelli. A big week for Bitcoin, away into space, and Tay-Tay's big payday. Yay, yay. Those stories are next on the tasting menu.
Hooray.
Hooray.
London, switch to Vodafone, the UK's best mobile network, and Be Unlimited, because the best phones deserve the best network and our new unlimited data plans. The future is exciting. Ready? Vodafone.
Max download speeds apply to unlimited data. Best network as voted by readers of trusted reviews. Terms at vodafone.co.uk/unlimited.
Hi, this is Brian Weber, host of NFL First and Goal every Sunday, kicking off at 1 Eastern only on TuneIn Premium. Be sure to listen this Sunday for the ultimate football fan experience, featuring 7 hours of commercial-free coverage of every scoring play around the NFL.
Major League Baseball postseason is in full swing, and TuneIn Premium puts you at field level for every.
And it's a home run.
Single.
And gone.
Game.
And that gone, a home run.
With TuneIn Premium, catch every pitch of every inning of every Major League postseason game until the final out of the World Series.
0-2 pitch, little half swing, and it hit.
At home or on the road, Major League Baseball's postseason action is on TuneIn Premium.
And that ball is gone.
Upgrade today.
In case you didn't know, TuneIn lets you listen to the same radio stations you pick up on your home or car radio, except you can hear them from anywhere. If you want to find a station from somewhere else in the world, navigate to the By Location section under Browse. Keep exploring with TuneIn.
You love TuneIn for live breaking news from CNN, MSNBC, Fox, CNBC, and more. But when you can't catch your favorite show as it airs, it might just be a click away as a podcast. Search your favorite news station to explore all the on-demand news shows on TuneIn.
These are the top buzzing stories on TuneIn.
Saturday Night Live makes fun of Kanye West.
Kanye West released his new gospel album, Jesus is King, yesterday. And it's also being reported that Kanye will be altering his old hits with more G-rated lyrics. So, yay.
Eddie Murphy talks about meeting Barack Obama.
He talked about my hair. He was like, how come your hair? He said, what kind of rinse are you using?
Those were the top stories that are buzzing on TuneIn.
Far wing elevates, triple bucket.
The war of the crowd. The shot clock ticks down. Will the ball go in? The suspense is pure torture, but you wouldn't miss this for the world. And the replays just don't cut
the
it.
Sideline, the man fleet for 3.
TuneIn Premium brings you every minute of the NBA season streaming live, so you can be there when it matters most. Hear it now. Hear it live on TuneIn.
Pump fake in the lane, turnaround jumper from 8 feet is good on the
Search
right.
NBA today to start listening.
Here's a taste of some of the other stories we were watching for you today. Bitcoin is booming, and that is thanks to Xi Jinping. The Chinese president reportedly said China should seize the opportunity offered by blockchain. There are also reports the People's Bank of China has been working on its own digital currency. Bitcoin's value soared 14% this past week. Bitcoin had been going through a rough patch during the last couple of months, but look at that spike on Friday because those comments came basically overnight Thursday.
What if he had said this before Zuckerberg was on the Hill testifying about Libra? Because that was a lot of his point was, hey, if we don't take the leadership role here, someone else is going to.
Yeah, that's an interesting point.
Yeah, I don't know if it would have helped
Get the power of 1 billion plus consumers using Bitcoin and trading in Bitcoin. It's a big deal.
Yeah. How about shares of Virgin Galactic, which are skyrocketing today? Sir Richard Branson, I don't know if skyrocketing. I mean, they're positive. Okay, here we are. They're up.
I think they use skyrocketing because it's rocket.
It's wordplay.
I know.
It's the whole business.
How about
3%?
They're elevating, lifting off. The space tourism company began trading under ticker SPCE. Virgin Galactic does begin to fly commercial flights in 2020 and aims to be profitable by 2021. The price tag is a whopping $250,000 if you want to be a passenger. And the method here, by going with Chamath's special purpose acquisition company, you heard Chamath say earlier he thinks could end the duopoly of the Morgan Goldman IPO process, guys, and make more startups do what he said was a quick 3.5-month, minimally distracting process to go public.
How many people? What is their addressable market?
For space travel?
People who can afford $250,000.
$250,000 per shot.
Right, it's relatively small.
That's a relatively small number. And if you look at maybe it's 2 million people, I don't know, worldwide, how many of them
want to go to space?
Want to go to space and are willing to pay $250,000? I don't know. Would you go?
I would go.
Would you?
Not me. No way.
I don't think I would.
No.
I would.
Come on.
Back closer to Earth. But Melissa, coming to New Jersey is a big adventure. Right?
That's for me. It is.
For you, it's a big adventure.
Maybe.
All right. Tay-Tay is partnering with Baba. Multi-Grammy Award-winning artist Taylor Swift will headline Alibaba's Singles Day next month in Shanghai. Swift will feature in a televised and live-streamed concert as a run-up to the start of the 24-hour online sale. Now, Alibaba announced that more than 200,000 brands will take part this year, and more than 500 million people are expected to shop. Shares of Baba have jumped on the news today, up about 3% at 179.54.
The real question is, does she face pushback? You know, for somebody who has been politically active in the U.S., it's a little bit of the same NBA phenomenon.
Yeah, will she be asked?
If fans are absolutely.
Yeah, will she be asked, and how will she handle it? Interesting.
I think she'll handle it pretty well, though. She's a pretty savvy businesswoman.
She's very savvy, and the lyrics to her songs are really good. She's really
Tyler's
talented.
a big fan, that's
I
for
am.
sure.
I am.
Up next, we'll talk to the CEO of Poshmark, the company that helps you cash out while cleaning up. Stay with us.
Hey, it's me again, the TV. Since my family gave me Now TV, there's no more endlessly searching for something they want to watch, because now I don't do filler TV, just killer TV. If my family want thrillers, they're going to be on the edge of their seats with these. Football? How about the Premier League? Or how about comedy? Coming up, way better than the dad jokes in this house. Now they can watch whatever they're in the mood for.
What's your TV got for you tonight? Now TV. 18 plus, month passes auto renew, terms apply.
Hey you. Yes, you. We didn't make Nature Valley nut butter biscuits so you could just sit and munch them on the train. Not when there's a whole forest out here to explore. Isn't that right? Go get it! Delicious whole grain biscuits with a real nut butter filling. Nature Valley Nut Butter Biscuits. Get out more.
The Peugeot Professional Van range is the beating heart of businesses across the UK. Whether you're on the road with only your DAB radio for company or navigating tight spots with rear parking sensors, all Peugeot Professional Vans give your business that edge. Visit your local Peugeot dealership during our October van event from the 10th to the 31st of October and drive away with an exclusive finance offer. Master the impossible. Peugeot Motor Company PLC is acting as a credit broker, not a lender. Finance subject to status. Terms and conditions apply. Business users and over 18s only. Guarantee may be required. PSA Finance UK Limited.
Hi, this is Brian Weber, host of NFL First and Goal every Sunday, kicking off at 1 Eastern only on TuneIn Premium. Be sure to listen this Sunday for the ultimate football fan experience, featuring 7 hours of commercial-free coverage of every scoring play around the NFL.
Major League Baseball postseason is in full swing, and TuneIn Premium puts you at field level for every.
And it's a home run.
Single.
And gone.
Game.
And that gone, a home run.
With TuneIn Premium, catch every pitch of every inning of every Major League postseason game until the final out of the World Series.
0-2 pitch, little half swing, and it hit.
At home or on the road, Major League Baseball's postseason action is on TuneIn Premium.
And that ball is gone.
Upgrade today.
From the TuneIn Studios, I'm Fonseca with your daily sports update. Anthony Davis had 29 points, 14 rebounds, and Dwight Howard had 16 points, 10 rebounds, 4 blocked shots. The Los Angeles Lakers 120-101 victory over the Charlotte Hornets on Sunday night.
LeBron give it to Dwight Howard, hands it right back to LeBron. LeBron with Royce O'Neal on it. Using Dwight Howard as a pick, drives to the basket, throws it up, in, and a foul. Wow, LeBron's taken over the game.
To catch all the NBA games, search NBA and favorite your team.
Welcome back. The department store trade has had a tough year. Retailers like Nordstrom, Kohl's, Gap, Macy's all seeing double-digit declines in 2019. But one section of the market is growing, and that would be resale. According to resale retailer ThredUp, this market grew 21 times faster than the traditional apparel retailers over the past 3 years. In 2018, 56 million women bought secondhand items, up from 44 million in 2017. And the industry is projected to grow to $51 billion by 2023, fueled by resale players like Poshmark, which has paid out over $2 billion to its community of online sellers. Joining us now for a Power Lunch exclusive is the founder and CEO of Poshmark, Manish Chandra. Manish, great to have you with us.
Thanks for having me.
Do you think that the popularity of reselling and buying previously owned goods, is that a function of where the economy is at all right now, or is this just the trend of the time?
I think there's 3 different forces driving the rise of resale. One is the rise of social, where people are actually wearing outfits, showing them, and want new outfits. Second is a general sort of rise of eco-consciousness. And third is really people's ability to sort of express themselves in a unique way that resale as a platform provides.
Give us an idea of who your typical seller is and who your typical buyer is when it comes to age as well as gender.
Sure. We have over 50 million users, 7 million sellers, over 7 million buyers on the platform. We started focused on the women's demographic, so we have 80% of our users are women, 20% are men, and they're really spread across the country, very much like the population of the country. So literally, if you go to North Dakota, if half to 3/4 of our population lives there, we'll have that. So we're really pervasive. Millennials are, of course, the dominant part, as they are part of our population.
What are the most popular selling brands on your website?
Currently, I would say for women's fashion, it would be Lululemon, Louis Vuitton, and Gucci. For men's fashion, it would be Nike, Gucci, and sometimes you'll find more eclectic brands like Robert Graham as well, very popular on the platform.
Manish, one thing I find interesting about your site is that you can actually be very responsive to fashion trends. And I saw that the NBA, for example, even though only 20% of the site is men, it can really move merchandise. So, if Russell Westbrook wears white denim or LeBron wears, a hoodie and a blazer, all of a sudden you see activity there. Tell us about that and how quickly you can respond to social media, for example, fashion trends going viral.
We are a social marketplace, and with 7 million sellers, they have inventory of all kinds. At any point in time, we have over 100 million listings on the platform. We have 150 brands that have been created on the platform, so that allows the platform to be very, very responsive to recent trends, whether it's Kylie Jenner or LeBron or Travis Scott. You sort of see that manifesting on the platform very quickly. But what's more interesting is that the platform, the sellers are curating items. So we have over 30 million items being curated a day. And that provides for a lot of discovery for consumers.
So let me ask you, go back to the numbers. You said 7 million sellers. How many buyers?
Over 7 million shoppers as well, and 50 million users on the platform.
Well, so what is their buyers, their sellers, and users? Who are users who aren't buying? I'm not getting that. I don't know how the numbers add up.
So it's really an interesting point is that a lot of sellers and shoppers are really using Poshmark also for just fashion discovery. They're actually going there and looking at different fashion items, different fashion products. and shopping. We're allowing every user to really engage and discover new things. So, for example, our average active user spends somewhere between 23 and 27 minutes on the platform.
What if I get an item that I like, that I've seen on your site, it arrives and either the fit is not good or it isn't the color I thought it was in the photograph, and I want to send it back? What happens?
Yeah, so we have a very simple process for item not described. If the item arrives and it's not exactly what you described, you can file a dispute, and once the dispute is approved, you get a return shipping label, and that allows you to ship the item back to the seller, and you get a full refund of your money. That's our buyer and seller protection system that's built into it.
Okay, but that would be if there was a dispute. But what if the item arrives and I said I wanted a size 4 and it was a size 4 and the seller complies with all of that, but I still don't like how it fits or looks on me? How do you handle that?
So quite simply, if you don't like the item, you're free to resell it on the platform. Today, for sort of non-disputed items, this platform does not support returns. You can go it forward. You can actually sell it on Poshmark and make money off that item as well.
I see.
Manish, I've got to ask you what your plans are in the future in terms of an IPO. I mean, you've got to be watching how the RealReal has done. It's trading right now below its IPO price, but up 17% in the past month.
Well, we continue to grow our marketplace, and really the focus for us has been growth. This year we launched Canada, we launched home decor. We've expanded, as you announced, we delivered over $2 billion to our sellers. And as we continue to grow, I think at the right time, the company may transition from private to public. But as of now, I can't comment on that.
Okay. Manish, we're going to leave it there. Thank you so much for joining us. We do appreciate it. Manish
Thank you for
Chandra,
having me.
the CEO of Poshmark.
All right, folks, Check Please is next.
Major League Baseball postseason is in full swing, and TuneIn Premium puts you at field level for every.
And it's a home run.
Single.
And gone.
Game.
And that gone, a home run.
With TuneIn Premium, catch every pitch of every inning of every Major League postseason game until the final out of the World Series.
0-2 pitch, little half swing, and it hit.
At home or on the road, Major League Baseball's postseason action is on TuneIn Premium.
And that ball is gone.
Upgrade today.
Touchdown, Minnesota. Grabbed by heavily covered. Dives into the end zone for the touchdown.
Tonight, TuneIn has your Monday night NFL football with the Miami Dolphins at the Pittsburgh Steelers. Kickoff at 8:15 p.m. Eastern.
Quick throw out to the side. Taysom Hill across the goal line. Touchdown.
But Robbie's got an airborne. Robbie Gold's field goal is good.
At home or on the go, hear the home and away call of every NFL game this season on TuneIn Premium. Upgrade today.
Get social with TuneIn. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram for the latest and greatest audio on the app. Explore exclusive content. Learn about hot new podcasts and get alerted when the big game, well, it's about to begin. Add TuneIn to your feed and be in the know when it matters most.
Like what you're listening to? Want to make getting back to it easier? Use the favorite button to keep track of the stations and podcasts you love on TuneIn. Just tap or click the heart icon to add it to your favorites. Then find all your go-to audio under the favorites tab. Pretty easy, right?
Ah, finally another commercial, said no one ever. Visit tunein.com/premium to upgrade now and get over 45 commercial-free music stations.
From the TuneIn Studios, I'm Fonseca with your daily sports update. Well, Houston was triumphant. Yeah, Houston got a firm grip of the series by beating the Nationals 7-1 Sunday night for a 3-2 lead in the World Series.
I feel like we're in every game. We've had, games where we've come from behind.
And the series is continuing with Game 6 this Tuesday right here on TuneIn. To find it and to favor it, search MLB and then favorite your team. Just click on it. Simple and easy. That's your TuneIn Sports Update.
Check, please.
Welcome back. It's Check Please. And the president tweeted about his new iPhone. Quote, to Tim, the button on the iPhone was far better than the swipe.
I like how he says to Tim, meaning Tim Cook, obviously the CEO of Apple, but he doesn't actually used Tim Cook's handle, so
Correct.
Tim might not
Means
see
that
it necessarily.
when you open up the iPhone using that button like on your phone.
I still have one of the older ones, I guess,
Yeah, me
because I
too.
was a little confused by it because I
Yeah.
thought, I still have the button, but I think on the newer ones, there's no button and you just have to swipe to get back to the home.
Sometimes older is better. I found that we just got a new refrigerator, and it has an old-style ice machine. It's not like with the ice trays, but it's just ice. It doesn't display through the door and all this stuff. And you just shovel it out, and it's the way to go.
Oh, you like it?
Oh, I prefer it.
That sounds like work.
Older
to
is
me.
sometimes just better. I think that people try to...
Well, speaking of which, Tyler's about to have a whole bright future on Poshmark.
You're going to be seeing on Poshmark the Matheson collection.
Maybe there'd be a premium because
Of
you've worn
handsome,
them.
lightly worn suits.
Maybe this one will
Maybe
make an
this
appearance.
one. There's a slight hole in the right-hand vest pocket here. I can show you.
That
there
just
it is,
adds
ladies and
to the
gentlemen.
uniqueness and character.
You will know that it is mine if you receive it.
I can't wait to see your site and how well you do.
Yes, I'll be curating.
Could be a whole other career for you.
Curating my closets.
All right, thank you for watching Power Lunch.
Closing bell, and Wilfred would never fit in any of my suits. Starts right now.
Not quite, Tyler. But anyway, welcome to the Closing Bell, everyone. I'm Wilfred Frost. Good afternoon to you. I'm at the Tiffany Post. That stock soaring today. The best performer in the S&P 500, up some 30% amid buyout interest from LVMH. The broader market's heading in the same direction. Record all-time closing high in sight for the S&P 500 with 59 minutes left to trade.
And I'm Courtney Reagan in for Sarah Eisen today. Let's look at what's driving the market action, the de-escalation of China tension, as both sides remain optimistic. The timetable for signing a deal. And corporate earnings overall really continue to beat relatively low expectations, if we're honest. And some company-specific M&A headlines are moving stocks much higher. We're going to dig into those. And driving the action this week, media disruption. Tomorrow, we'll get the details beyond HBO Max. Friday is the launch of Apple TV Plus. And Disney Plus launches next Friday. So all this week on Closing Bell, we're going to take a deeper dive into the strategies, investments, and personalities behind the changes happening in media. Today, we'll talk to billionaire Ted Leonsis, who is the owner of Washington Wizards and Capitals, about the value of live sports. That's all coming up after the bell. It's going to be a very big show here today. And joining us for the hour is Stephanie Ling from Nuveen, a TIAA company. Well, Stephanie, it looks like today it's kind of steady as she goes. It seems like we have a de-escalation of the trade war and fundamentals from earnings actually moving some stocks.
You hit it perfectly, actually. A good start to the week, right? Trade tensions seem to be easing a bit. Earnings so far, 50% of the S&P 500 have reported. They're beating by 2%. I know against a very low bar, but they're still beating. And most importantly, 2020 guidance only coming down about 1%. And that represents about 11% year-over-year growth. So can you imagine going from flattish growth this year to 11% growth? I don't think the market is pricing that in. I'm not sure we're going to do 11% growth, but anything better than flattish growth I don't think is necessarily priced into the market. So we have a lot to get through, guys, this week. It's going to be very busy starting on Wednesday with the FOMC, ISM, PCE, non-farm payroll, so a lot to tackle. I'm not doing much. Sold some DR Horton today, bought a little Amazon, and a little bit of my last chance trade.
That's right. We have about 140 companies reporting this week, too, besides all the things that you went through there.
Yeah.
A lot to get through this week, a lot to get through in the next hour, including whether or not we're going to have record all-time closing highs on the S&P 500. It looks highly likely for the NASDAQ. It is touch and go. The Dow won't make it today. Let's focus in on the big stories we're watching today. Julia Borson's covering AT&T's earnings. Josh Lipton has details on Microsoft's big cloud contract win. Robert Frank is watching one luxury retail mogul's bid to expand his empire. And Morgan Brennan has the latest on Virgin Galactic's first day of trade. But Julia, let's start with you on AT&T.
Well, that's right. AT&T shares rising about 4.5% today on stronger than expected guidance for next year through 2022. Also on progress with activist Elliott Management, which says it supports the approach unveiled by AT&T, including reviewing the portfolio, the commitment to making no more major acquisitions, the addition of 2 new directors, and a plan to break up the CEO and chairman roles. Revenues, though, falling short of estimates, with earnings beating estimates by a penny per share. The company did lose nearly 1.4 million subscribers between TV and streaming, which was more than expected. Guys, back over to you.
Judith.
Thank you very much, Julia. Sorry, Wolf, we're very excited. It's going to be a big show.
It is.
Well, Microsoft is beating out Amazon and a slew of other competitors for a major government cloud contract. Josh Lipton has more in San Francisco. Hi, Josh.
So according to the contract known as JEDI, could be worth as much as $10 billion over a decade. Microsoft today jumping to a new all-time high. No surprise, Amazon not happy. Says it was surprised about this conclusion. Tech analyst Patrick Moorhead says this is a big deal for Satya Nadella, though. In part, he says because it's a powerful marketing tool. Nadella can reassure companies working in highly regulated industries from banks to hospitals that his tech is secure enough for the U.S. military. So surely it's good enough for them as well. But the fight might not be over. Amazon is reportedly considering a challenge to this award. Guys, back to you.
Josh, thanks so much for that. Stephanie, unsurprising to see Microsoft breaking out higher on the day the S&P 500 is probably going to close at a record all-time high. And the sector construct today as well is tech leading the charge.
Yeah, it's nice to see. Well, tech is leading the earnings charge, too. That's what's fueling the better-than-expected results. But I'm impressed that Amazon has actually snapped back. And I was telling you earlier that I actually added to it because I actually thought the quarter was better than the underlying kind of reports. But in terms of Microsoft, the numbers initially on are not that big. It's $1 million for the first 2 years. It could be $1 billion per year, depending. What's more important is there's $30 billion more from the Department of Defense down the road. And so if they can do a good job with this contract as a single source, that actually is very positive eventually for more money down the road.
Is this a bigger win for Microsoft or a bigger loss for Amazon?
I think it's a bigger win for Microsoft because the rumors were it was going to be dual sourced. So the fact that they're single sourced. Now, I think Amazon probably will appeal. We'll see what happens, but I do think this is much bigger for Microsoft, for sure.
Be interesting to see how Google does. They, of course, report after the close tonight. Billionaire luxury retail mogul Bernard Arnault making a bid to buy one of America's most well-known jewelry brands. Robert Frank is diving into that story for us. Hi, Robert.
Well, he is known as the Wolf in Cashmere Clothing for his skill at hunting acquisition targets. LVMH CEO Bernard Arnault making a $14.5 billion play for Tiffany, whose stock is now above that bid. Now, Arnault has become the third richest man in the world by buying up brands and expanding them around the world. LVMH stock price up almost 50% just in the past year, giving him a net worth of almost $100 billion. LVMH has over 60 brands from Louis Vuitton to Dom Perignon and Fenty by Rihanna. Adding Tiffany would help grow his jewelry business, especially in China, where Tiffany has struggled but remains a highly popular brand. Guys, back to you.
This is very interesting, Robert, as well, because the CEO of Tiffany does have a history with Mr. Arnault.
He does. In fact, the CEO, Alex Boliolo, worked for Bulgari when Arnault bought Bulgari back in 2011. And there's also a board member on Tiffany who was the CEO of Bulgari at the time that Arnault bought it. So this would be kind of round two for these guys selling to Arnault. And for Bulgari, it worked out really well. So that could be a precedent.
Steph, what's your take on this, and any read across for how strong luxury is at the moment?
Luxury is definitely strong. It definitely has momentum. Cord, as you know very well. I think the price is too low. 15.2 times EV to EBITDA. I mean, the deals on average have been about 20 times EV to EBITDA. And there's precedent. Some companies have paid even higher than that. So if you were to put a 22 multiple on EV to EBITDA on Tiffany's, it's $140 to $160 stock. So I think it can go much higher. And I think the combination is great, right? LVMH, they're an innovator, and Tiffany has the global brand name. So I think it's a good combination. I just think the price has to come up.
I also think it's kind of interesting. Clearly, all of these luxury brands are global in nature, but the European one, where the consumer's meant to be weak, is the one that is acquiring the US one, where the consumer's meant to be strong. Now, sales, of course, globally, but you wouldn't have expected that on the surface of consumer companies right now.
Yeah, but Tiffany's has stumbled in the last several years. They've really been struggling with sales, and margins have really been contracting substantially. So they're a turnaround mode, and I have no doubt that this management team can do it. It's just taking longer, and so I don't blame LVMH for taking advantage. They're a wonderfully run company. It would be a very powerful combination.
And LVMH, of course, is a deal-making machine.
Yes.
I don't doubt that this will go through now that both companies have acknowledged that they at least have been an approach. I think the price is the big question mark. And the Street agrees with you, obviously, because look at the stock price today, well above that $120 a share reported price. Well, let's turn now to Virgin Galactic. That's moving higher today as well, and its first day of trade here at the New York Stock Exchange. Morgan Brennan has those details for us. A big day in your space, Morgan.
Big day in my space, a big day in space, new space.
Virgin Galactic marking a milestone, becoming the first space tourism company to go public. I sat down with founder Sir Richard Branson, investor Chamath Palihapitiya, and CEO George Whitesides earlier in a first on CNBC interview to discuss this debut.
I think it's a very big milestone. If the public wants to, take a little, dabble a little bit in a spaceship company or own a little bit of a spaceship company, they can now do so. We've got off to a great start. I mean, the share price went up 11% on Friday and another 5% today. We've managed to completely fund Virgin Galactic through to when it breaks even.
Now, Galactic merging with social capital ahead of Sophia, which is a special acquisition vehicle. It's a so-called SPAC to raise that capital and go public through this non-traditional direct approach, making Palihapitiya not only chairman of this space company, but a major investor.
I think the profitability of this business is going to look as good as one of the best software companies around, and that's why I was so excited. You're in the business of hardware, but it looks like software, and that is very different than many of the other technology-oriented hardware companies that have gone public recently. So this is a business that at scale will have almost 70% operating margins, which is incredible.
So in terms of how big this market is, how many people will pay $250,000 for a flight to the edge of space, CEO George Whitesides also saying they think 2 million people can experience this over the coming year at this price point. They've already got 600 signed up, remember, and that over time, as they reduce that price, the market will actually be capacity constrained, even with a space tourism competitor, Jeff Bezos' Blue Origin, also getting ready to offer its own suborbital flights. And guys, that's just over the next couple of years. Longer term, and we discussed this earlier today as well, this is a company that's looking at hypersonic travel, basically point-to-point travel around the Earth, something that could be a much bigger, greater, longer-term disruptor to things like airplane travel.
Morgan, I particularly look forward to.
I bet you do.
And I enjoyed your conversation with him about that. But back to your point in terms of 2020 target and how many flights to space they expect at that 250 grand price point. I guess it hasn't gone through the traditional IPO process to get that kind of forecast of what it's trading on right now. But what rough estimates are those valuation multiples and in terms of how much the company's worth based on the listing and some of those expectations for when they're going to start to see revenue pouring in?
Yeah, and I was doing some light reading of the almost 600 pages of the amended S4 just yesterday afternoon, going through some of these numbers. Now, keep in mind, service has not begun. They're targeting next year. But as you heard those comments from Palihapitiya, putting this into perspective, it's really about the gross margins, which currently, based on the flights they have actually done, because they have done a number of test flights and they have taken some payloads to the edge of space, versus what the cost of those flights are. You're talking margins that are, I think, in the first 6 months of this year, I want to say around 43-45%, but they're expecting that as this company gets to scale, you're looking at margins of 7%, which is why there is this path to profitability, why they have these forecasts in place, and why, quite frankly, even though service hasn't begun, the stock is trading up 2% today after popping when the merger closed Friday afternoon.
Morgan, thanks so much for that. Steph, quick question. Do you think this is buoyed by the fact that it is this sexy space stock as opposed to anything else?
Yes. It's a niche and it's early. And I think if he's right on 70% operating margins over time, that's huge. And you want to get in on the ground floor, but pick very, very carefully because this is very early stages.
Very early.
Now we've got a news alert. It's on Boeing ahead of CEO Dennis Muilenburg's testimony tomorrow in front of Congress. Phil LeBeau's got the details for us. Hi, Phil.
Hey, Will, we have the opening statement from Boeing CEO Dennis Muilenburg, who will be on Capitol Hill over the next couple of days. This is from his opening statement that will be delivered tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. in front of the Senate Commerce Committee. Among the quotes that we have, as we read through this statement, one that stands out is when Dennis Muilenburg says, we have learned from this incident, this accident of the two Boeing 737 MAXes. He says, I can assure you that we have learned from this and will continue learning. We have changed from this and will continue changing. As you take a look at shares of Boeing, guys, I was just at a briefing, a pen and pad briefing with Representative Peter DeFazio from Oregon, who is on the House committee that will have a chance to question Dennis Muilenburg on Wednesday. They're not happy with the state of what's happened with the 737 MAX, with Boeing, with the FAA. And I asked him point blank, do you believe that there may be some criminal actions here? And he said, we just don't know. There are a lot of people we want to talk to who have said, we'll talk with your committee after we talk with the DOJ. Because remember, the DOJ, the Department of Justice, is investigating this entire situation with the Boeing 737 MAX. Guys, back to you.
Phil, I'm also just trying to skim read this set of testimony for tomorrow. Of course, the testimony is one part of it. The questions,
and I think that's more important, Wolf. I think the questions are far more important. Most of what we read here, we've heard a lot of these statements in the past from Dennis Muhlenberg or from Boeing. Yes, they feel responsibility for the 346 lives that have been lost in these two accidents. Dennis Muhlenberg says in this statement, we own it. That's a phrase that we have heard from Boeing for almost a year. Look, tomorrow's the one-year anniversary of the Lion Air crash. What's going to be more important is whether or not we see a level of contrition from Dennis Muhlenberg that we haven't seen in the past. If you go back to the annual meeting, a lot of people who were at that press briefing after the annual meeting felt that Dennis Muhlenberg came off as cold and indifferent. Now, from talking with executives at Boeing, and when I've talked to Dennis Muhlenberg, they say, look, that's not the case at all. We completely understand the magnitude of the situation, and Dennis Muhlenberg does feel contrition. But he's got to show that. And if he doesn't show that tomorrow, Wilf, then you can bet that the senators on the Commerce Committee who are going to be questioning him, they're going to go after him hard. Now, they're going to go after, regardless, they're going to go after him hard, but they're really going to go after him if he doesn't show a level of contrition.
Hey, Phil, it's Stephanie Lang. You don't think he sounded better this past conference call versus the prior two?
Better, but I'm not sure if he's gone far enough, Stephanie. Now, part of that is, and I know Dennis fairly well from over the years interviewing him and talking with him, that's his demeanor. It doesn't mean that he's not caring and that he doesn't understand the situation here. But the analogy that I use for people is go back to the GM ignition switch hearings on Capitol Hill. The first time Mary Barra came to Capitol Hill, she gave correct answers, very succinct and straightforward answers, but it was a terrible performance in front of those who were questioning her because she did not come across as sincere enough. And I understand people will say, look, this is all theater. What really matters is whether or not Boeing is changing things. Well, the fact of the matter is that does matter, and whether or not you come across as sincere. And then when Mary Barra came back the second time, guys, much different tenor and tone from her than the first time around. So will be interesting to see how Dennis Muhlenberg handles this, not only tomorrow with the Senate, but on Wednesday with the House.
Phil, thank you very much. We look forward to your coverage of that. Phil LeBeau. Still ahead here on Closing Bell, the busiest week of earnings season underway, with reports hitting after the close today, including Google parent Alphabet, Beyond Meat, and T-Mobile. We'll preview the key things to expect from those names coming up.
Plus, we're looking beyond the bundle this week on Closing Bell with a deep dive on the rapidly changing media sector. Ahead, we'll take a closer look at the lucrative sports media market with Monumental Sports CEO and NBA, WNBA, and NHL team owner Ted Leonsis.
This CNBC program is...
London, switch to Vodafone, the UK's best mobile network, and be unlimited, because the best phones deserve the best network and our new unlimited data plans. The future is exciting. Ready? Vodafone.
Max download speeds apply to unlimited data. Best network as voted by readers of trusted reviews. Terms at vodafone.co.uk/unlimited.
Hey, NFL fans, can't watch the game? Can't be there? No biggie. With your TuneIn Premium membership, you have unlimited access to every team and every game in the league. Listen live as it happens or on demand. Anytime, anywhere. All season long. Search NFL today. Major League Baseball postseason is in full swing, and TuneIn Premium puts you at field level for every...
And it's a home run!
...single...
And gone!
...game.
And that gone, a home run!
With TuneIn Premium, catch every pitch of every inning of every Major League postseason game until the final out of the World Series.
0-2 pitch, little half swing, and it hit...
At home or on the road, Major League Baseball's postseason action is on TuneIn Premium.
And that ball is gone!
Upgrade today.
Like what you're listening to? Want to make getting back to it easier? Use the favorite button to keep track of the stations and podcasts you love on TuneIn. Just tap or click the heart icon to add it to your favorites. Then find all your go-to audio under the Favorites tab. Pretty easy, right?
Far wing elevates, triple bucket.
The roar of the crowd. The shot clock ticks down. Will the ball go in? The suspense is pure torture, but you wouldn't miss this for the world. And the replays just don't cut
The
it.
sideline, the man fleet for three.
TuneIn Premium brings you every minute of the NBA season streaming live, so you can be there when it matters most. Hear it now, hear it live on TuneIn.
Fake in the lane, turnaround jumper from 8 feet is good on the right
Search
block.
NBA today to start listening.
This is not a commercial. This is a reminder. With TuneIn Premium, you could be listening to more music commercial-free. Get over 45 commercial-free music stations. Visit TuneIn.com/premium to upgrade.
From the TuneIn Studios, I'm Fonseca with the Daily Sports Update. Garrett Cole and the Houston Astros went to Washington hoping to snap out of their funk and bring the World Series back to Minute Maid Park. Not only are they heading home with more games to play, now they're just one win from another crown. Cole gave Houston a firm grip on the series by beating the Nationals 7-1 Sunday night for a 3-2 lead. Game 6 is Tuesday evening right here on TuneIn. And the first pitch is at 8 p.m. Eastern right here on TuneIn. That's your TuneIn Sports Update.
You love TuneIn for live breaking news from CNN, MSNBC, Fox, CNBC, and more. But when you can't catch your favorite show as it airs, it might just be a click away as a podcast. Search your favorite news station to explore all the on-demand news shows on TuneIn.
Welcome back to the closing bell. Just about 40 minutes left to go, and we could see a record close on the S&P 500. We're going to watch it carefully, so the level we're all watching to beat is 30.25. Let's get a check on individual market mover. Spotify reporting an earnings and revenue beat this morning. Monthly active users were up 30% versus 1 year ago, outperforming the guidance. The increase was driven by growth in Latin America and Southeast Asia as well. Spotify is on pace for its best day ever. Shares up more than 16%.
Let's go over to Mike for today's market dashboard. Hi, Mike.
Hi, Wilf. We have the S&P at a new record, as you guys have been talking about. At the same time, the market almost universally expects the Fed this week to cut interest rates. Is there a contradiction in there? Some are suggesting perhaps there is. But if you look at the history of what you would call mini easing cycles, these are mid-cycle easing cycles, 3 rate cuts each time from the mid-90s and the late 90s. It's not very incongruous. So here we are, 1994 into 1995. The Fed realized it had tightened too much. It eased 3 times. This week, if we get a cut, it would be the third one, of course. And each time, the market was actually at or very close to an all-time high. This was record highs at that point. Essentially, this was a soft patch in the U.S. economy that was firmed up as the Fed eased 3 times. Now, let's look at the 1998 example. It's somewhat similar, although it came right around the crux of a global financial panic. This is right here. 3 cuts as well before they went on hold for a little while. And this was an all-time high. So essentially, you're just below a high on the 3rd cut, November of 1999. Of course, we know 1999. Things really blew off to the upside. So if you remember, the Fed characterized what they were doing as perhaps a mid-cycle adjustment. The market at first didn't like it, but now the market has kind of bought in to this potential scenario, guys.
Mid-cycle adjustment, mini easing cycles. Thank you, Mike. Well, after the break, a new trend among teens could spell trouble for makeup companies. We'll tell you what the Visco girls are. If you don't know already, you're going to get an education and the impact that could have on the industry.
Plus, shares of Richard Branson's Virgin Galactic moving higher on their first day of trading. We'll speak to entrepreneur investor Peter Diamandis, the man in the middle of this photo, about opportunities in the commercial space race. We're back in a couple of minutes.
Watford, there's nothing like coming back to a warm home after a long day at work, especially when you've been stuck at a cold train station in rush hour for what seems like an eternity. Luckily, with Hive Active Heating, rated 5-star on Trustpilot, you can turn your heating on from wherever you are. And now with our new Hive radiator valves, you can even control your heating room by room. Search Hive Heating to buy now. Hive services require broadband and Wi-Fi. Terms apply.
Should we go halves? I'll get this. Let me just get my card. Which was in my pocket.
You can't control awkward first dates. But if you temporarily misplace your debit card, you can freeze and unfreeze it on our mobile banking app. Feel in control every day. Lloyds Bank, by your side. You can only freeze some transaction types. T's and C's apply.
Hey, NFL fans, can't watch the game? Can't be there? No biggie. With your TuneIn Premium membership, you have unlimited access to every team and every game in the league. Listen live as it happens or on demand. Anytime, anywhere. All season long. Search NFL today.
Deep left center field. A grand slam!
A October baseball is here, and TuneIn Premium is your ticket to the 2019 MLB postseason. Featuring the home and away feeds for every game, TuneIn Premium delivers every call of the ALCS, NLCS, and the 2019 World Series through the voices of the local radio broadcast teams.
In the air, left fielded deep. He's at the wall.
Now until a new champion is crowned, hear every play of the 2019 MLB postseason live on TuneIn Premium. Upgrade today.
From the TuneIn Studios, I'm Fonseca with your daily sports update. Well, Houston was triumphant. Yeah, Houston got a firm grip of the series by beating the Nationals 7-1 Sunday night for a 3-2 lead in the World Series.
I feel like we're in every game. We've had, games where we've come from behind.
And the series is continuing with Game 6 this Tuesday right here on TuneIn. To find it and to favor it, search MLB and then favorite your team. Just click on it. Simple and easy. That's your TuneIn Sports Update. Get social with TuneIn. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram for the latest and greatest audio on the app. Explore exclusive content. Learn about hot new podcasts and get alerted when the big game, it's about to begin. Add TuneIn to your feed and be in the know when it matters most.
In case you didn't know, TuneIn lets you listen to the same radio stations you pick up on your home or car radio, except you can hear them from anywhere. If you want to find a station from somewhere else in the world, navigate to the By Location section under Browse. Keep exploring with TuneIn.
Welcome back to Closing Bell. Time to get word on the street. Bank of America initiating Roku with a buy and a price target of $154. The firm says negative impacts expected from competitors' new streaming services are overestimated and that Roku will continue to benefit from increasing consumer demand for affordable smart TVs using Roku's operating system. It's up some 10% today.
What a move. Citi downgrading Lululemon from buy to neutral. The firm, though, says market expectations of a flawless third quarter earnings leaves little room for disappointment, and a pickup in promos could lead to merchandise margins coming in weaker than expected for the quarter. Shares are down just about 1%. On Piper Jaffray, downgrading Estee Lauder from buy to neutral. The firm citing a softening cosmetic market driven by more female teens wearing minimal or no makeup as part of the Visco girl trend.
Yeah.
Other items that are part of the Visco girl trend include lip glosses such as Carmex and Burt's Bees, facial sprays, hydro flasks and scrunchies, as well as Vans, Crocs with tube socks.
I've been talking about this for years. It was so obvious that this was happening.
You're a Visco girl, and we didn't even know it.
Yeah. Well, I do Carmex, so that's why I was confused. I didn't when I saw that image
Crocs
in
too,
our
right?
things. Crocs, I'm not a big fan of.
But this makes sense to you, actually, in reality, Stephanie, because of the trends you've observed.
I have a Gen Z myself, a girl, and she has taught me a lot in terms of technology and all kinds of products that they use. Facials, huge. On Friday nights, they'll just put facial stuff on them. They have no interest in makeup. I thought this was saying that
they don't.
So the facials are like masks, so they don't want the makeup.
It's skincare versus
so they want
better skin for you, right?
So then you don't need makeup.
You don't need makeup.
Well,
they
that
don't want
sounds
to wear
sensible.
makeup. Well, and that's the whole reason why of the downgrade of Estee Lauder, because they have more makeup versus skincare, and they have more exposure to that trend. So I don't know about it's extrapolating a lot for Estee Lauder. The fact is, it's expensive, right? And it's had a nice run. But no, I'm all with the Visco.
It is interesting too that I think the timing of the downgrade, because this Visco girl trend and the Piper Jaffray teen survey didn't come out a couple of weeks ago,
right?
And these were observed trends with a downtick in the makeup spending.
We saw Estee Lauder, we saw Ulta, last 2 quarters, we saw that skincare was better than makeup. So it is sort of an interesting trend. We'll see if it lasts, but my Gen Z likes it.
Estee Lauder down 1.3% today. Still to come, millions of Californians facing power outages as wildfires burn across the state. We'll get a live report on the latest to control the blazes coming up.
And here's a quick check on bonds. Rates are on the rise with the U.S. Treasury yields moving higher to kick off the week here on this Monday. Yields on the 10-year note are sitting around 1.847%. Closing bell. We'll be right back.
The Bond Report.
London. Switch to Vodafone, the UK's best mobile network, and Be Unlimited, because the best phones deserve the best network and our new unlimited data plans. The future is exciting. Ready? Vodafone.
Max download speeds apply to unlimited data. Best network as voted by readers of trusted reviews. Terms at vodafone.co.uk/unlimited.
Hey, you. We didn't make Nature Valley crunchy bars so you could just sit and scoff them in front of the TV. could be enjoying them outdoors. Up here! Race it to the top! With 100% whole grain oats and delicious honey. Nature Valley Crunchy. Get out more.
Major League Baseball postseason is in full swing, and TuneIn Premium puts you at field level for every...
And it's a home run!
...single...
and gone!
...game.
And that gone, a home run!
With TuneIn Premium, catch every pitch of every inning of every Major League postseason game until the final out of the World Series.
0-2 pitch, little half swing, and it hit...
At home or on the road, Major League Baseball's postseason action is on TuneIn Premium.
And that ball is gone!
Upgrade today.
Hi, this is Brian Weber, host of NFL First and Goal every Sunday, kicking off at 1 Eastern only on TuneIn Premium. Be sure to listen this Sunday for the ultimate football fan experience, featuring 7 hours of commercial-free coverage of every scoring play around the NFL.
At home or on the go, stay up to date on the latest news and political trends with Fox's full lineup of shows. Plus, when news breaks, Fox has you covered with live updates and expert analysis on the biggest developing stories. Listen to Fox News Talk anytime on TuneIn.
Here's a swing and a drive deep to right field. Looking up. Goodbye, baseball.
Between game-winning shots and walk-off homers, follow TuneIn on social media to discover the latest and greatest in live sports.
With the 24th pick in the 2019 NFL Draft.
From live reminders that the biggest MLB games are on the air to recommendations of the best new sports talk shows and podcasts.
He's going to be fine. He's going to be good right away in 3 years.
Follow at TuneIn on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to get the most out of TuneIn.
This is not a commercial. This is a reminder. With TuneIn Premium, you could be listening to more music commercial-free. Get over 45 commercial-free music stations. Visit TuneIn.com/premium to upgrade.
Welcome back. We've got just under 30 minutes left to go of trade, and we're heading for a record all-time close to the S&P 500. Here are the key things driving the action. The de-escalation of China tension as both sides remain optimistic on the timetable for signing a deal. Corporate earnings overall continue to beat low expectations, and some company-specific M&A headlines moving stocks higher. We will dig into all of those coming up, as we said, as we approach a record all-time closing high for the S&P.
It is time now for a CNBC News Update with Sue Herrera. Hi, Sue.
Hello, Courtney. Hello, everyone. Here's what's happening at this hour. President Trump says the Justice Department will begin a stronger crackdown on violent crime in the U.S. He spoke at the International Association of Chiefs of Police conference in Chicago.
Attorney General Barr will announce a new crackdown on violent crime, which I think is so important, targeting gangs and drug traffickers in high-crime cities and dangerous rural areas.
Some Chicago students marching in the street to call attention to the Chicago teachers' strike, now in its 8th day. They marched several blocks to City Hall, most holding signs in support of the striking Chicago Teachers Union. And Robert Evans, the producer of Chinatown, who also helped bring The Godfather, Serpico, and Rosemary's Baby to the screen as chief of Paramount Pictures, has died. He was married 7 times, including to actress Ali McGraw and Catherine Oxenberg, as well as former Miss America Phyllis George. Robert Evans was 89 years old. You are up to date. That's the news update this hour. Wilf, I'll send it back downtown to you.
Sue, thank you so much. Now, shares of PG&E dropping as wildfires in Northern California forced nearly 200,000 people to evacuate. Let's get to Jane Wells for more. Hi, Jane.
Hi, Wilfred. Yeah, I'm here in Healdsburg where, the destruction is terrible. But actually, it's these intentional power outages which are affecting more people than the fires are. And earlier today, we were talking about a lot of people wanting to maybe get these energy packs, these battery packs for their home, for their energy systems, because even if you have solar, you're still usually connected to the grid. Well, Tesla sells a Powerwall product, which to get with a pair of 2 for your house, which I guess is the standard package, is well over 10 grand. These are expensive programs, especially if you want to add solar. This afternoon, however, Elon Musk tweeted, if you're directly affected by wildfire power outages, Tesla is reducing solar plus Powerwall prices by $1,000 as of today. He then added, we don't make much money on this product, so $1,000 actually means a lot. And guys, last I checked, Tesla shares were down just a smidge on the day. Back to you.
Thank you, Jane. At least he's doing that, $1,000 for those immediately impacted, but still a very expensive proposition. We've got about 27 minutes left to go. Let's send it over to Mike Santoli for his second dashboard. Hi, Mike.
Courtney, hi. We've been talking a lot about this rotation toward more cyclical, some more economically geared sectors, and it has been happening both today and in recent weeks. But take a look at this chart from Jim Paulson over at Luthal Group. He points out that these cyclical sectors of the S&P 500, that's financials, industrials, consumer discretionary materials, now represent a relatively small portion of the overall index. You see the weighting right here, it's around 34%. That really compares to kind of almost bear market lows in previous episodes. So what he's basically saying is there's almost a scarcity of cyclical stocks to buy. Maybe the upside for those, therefore, is higher if we get a lot of confidence that the economy's reaccelerating. Another way to look at it, though, is those stocks themselves will have a hard time driving the overall S&P 500 because you have the defensive, the yield stocks, the secular growth stocks that really represent a heavy proportion of the benchmark now, guys.
Mike, thanks so much. Mike Santoli there. Much more to come from him coming up.
Well, we are on record close watch for the S&P 500. The level we want to beat to get there is 3025. Right now, as you can see, we are well above that at 3,042. Coming up next, we've got your last chance trade.
Plus, Virgin Galactic becoming the first ever publicly traded commercial spaceflight company. Up next, we'll talk about the future of the space race with a top investor in the field.
CNBC Sector Sort is sponsored by Sector Spider ETFs. Sector Spider ETFs. Visit us on the web at sectorspiders.com.
Hello? This is Dustin. I found something. Is anybody there?
We hear you, Dustin. With Sky Q, you can easily catch up on epic Netflix shows like Stranger Things and then watch award-winning Sky originals like Chernobyl. Get Sky and Netflix all in one place on Sky Q for one surprisingly low price. Just £25 a month. Visit sky.com and join today. Offer ends November 14th. 18-month minimum terms. Prices may change during contract. Requires Sky Q box connected to broadband. Set up from £20. Further terms apply.
Deep left center field. A grand slam!
October baseball is here, and TuneIn Premium is your ticket to the 2019 MLB postseason. Featuring the home and away feeds for every game, TuneIn Premium delivers every call of the ALCS, NLCS, and the 2019 World Series through the voices of the local radio broadcast teams.
In the air, left field and deep. He's at the wall!
Now until a new champion is crowned, hear every play of the 2019 MLB postseason live on TuneIn Premium. Upgrade today. Hey NFL fans, can't watch the game? Can't be there? No biggie. With your TuneIn Premium membership, you have unlimited access to every team and every game in the league. Listen live as it happens or on demand. Anytime, anywhere. All season long. Search NFL today.
Well, we have the treats. This October, there's no better place to listen to your favorite audio than on TuneIn. From the NFL, the World Series, and the start of the NHL and NBA seasons to the latest in developments in the 2020 election from MSNBC, CNN, and Fox News Talk. Sports, news, podcast, music, and more. Soundtrack your Halloween with TuneIn.
Far wing, elevates, triple bucket.
The roar of the crowd. The shot clock ticks down. Will the ball go in? The suspense is pure torture, but you wouldn't miss this for the world. And the replays just don't cut it.
The sideline, the man fleet for three.
TuneIn Premium brings you every minute of the NBA season streaming live, so you can be there when it matters most. Hear it now, hear it live on TuneIn.
Fake in the lane, turnaround jumper from 8 feet is good on the
Search
right block.
NBA today to start listening.
In the dictionary, a podcast is this: a digital audio file made available on the internet, typically as a series, of which new installments can be received by subscribers automatically. But on TuneIn, a podcast is this.
I'm Rachel Martin with David Green, and this is Up First from NPR News.
And it's defined like this.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show.
From news, sports, to pop culture, comedy, and beyond, define your own podcast possibilities on TuneIn.
Virgin Galactic becoming the first ever publicly traded commercial spaceflight company today. For more, let's bring in Peter Diamandis, founder of the X Prize Foundation and longtime space investor through his fund Bold Capital Partners. Peter, thanks very much for joining us. Good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon. It's a pleasure. Really exciting today.
Indeed, and Virgin Galactic stock trading up both Friday and today off the back of this. Do you believe the projections that they will make commercial space flight a reality for many travelers by next year?
Well, this was the whole purpose of the X Prize Foundation's original X Prize, $10 million for the first privately built spaceship in Virgin Galactic as a result of Spaceship One. And that was the mission, to drive the regulations to change, bring capital in, and open up private spaceflight for everybody. Virgin Galactic's seat price is something that a lot of people can afford. And so, rather than just a couple of people privately per year, we hopefully will see hundreds, eventually thousands going.
Peter, obviously there's a lot of interest in this area. It's very exciting for a lot of reasons, science and otherwise. But are these companies truly investable companies for most people?
So people invest for different reasons, right? You invest because you want to be part of the adventure, and you invest because you want the value of your investment to go up. I think everything we hold of value on Earth, metals, minerals, energy, real estate, are near infinite quantities in space, right? I truly believe the next trillionaires will be made there as we go for these resources. It's the early days. It's the equivalent of the pioneers coming to the Americas and looking for business opportunities, and whether it's, the equivalent of land or tobacco or lumber. These are, for me, the earliest elements of space are going to be tourism. Those of us like myself who grew up in the 60s, passionate about opening up the space frontier, are going to have a chance to go and do it ourselves. So, one of my companies, Zero G, did weightless flights. We took Stephen Hawking up. But the idea of actually going into space is what Virgin Galactic holds the promise for. And so that's what's exciting. And I think there are millions of people who would love to have that adventure. And the price is, within reach, and will hopefully come down over time as we fly more and more. And then you'll have other companies, SpaceX, Blue Origin, and others that begin. But I do believe that that Virgin Galactic will be the first to fly people. I've got my ticket. I'm excited to go.
But Peter, do you think really that number's correct? Millions and millions of people that want to go into space just purely for the sake of it? Or does things have to evolve a little bit more before the likes of Virgin Galactic have truer, wider long-term purpose? There was some discussion today about hypersonic travel from place to place on Earth, or of course, as you mentioned, some of those other space companies who want to actually get to another planet altogether.
So, I think the numbers are like 50 million millionaires on the planet. Maybe the number's higher than that. And so the question is, what percentage want to have a chance to go on a unique adventure? And it's going to be, the price point and what people can afford. Yes, I do believe that eventually millions of people will be going into space. I think that it's difficult for us to believe that now. But if you went back 100 years ago and said, listen, tens of millions would be in the air at any one time, we would not have believed that. I think we have to go from adventure travel to practical travel. Yes, point-to-point travel, or getting, as SpaceX wants to do, to get to the moon, get to Mars, destination locations. But it's the beginning. It truly is the opportunity for us to start becoming a multiplanetary species. So those of us who remember Apollo and the space shuttle, this is our chance finally. And so I'm excited about it. And we'll see what businesses flow as a result of this in the years and the decades ahead. But that's why we started the X Prize in the first place, to make it possible. This is our first X Prize team to actually have a public exit. We're super happy that a $10 million prize drove $100 million in team expenditures, and now a multi-billion-dollar industry.
Thank you for being with us here today, Peter Diamandis. What a day for space. I'm sure we'll check back in with you
it's exciting. By the way, our next X Prize, we're hoping, since I'm here in California, is going to be a wildfire X Prize. Can we put these fires out faster and cheaper than ever before, instantly? That's the goal.
That is something that definitely needs to be solved. Thank you, Peter. Well, about 18 minutes left to go. Here we are. Stephanie, what is your last chance trade?
The F Corp. I've pitched it before. but the stock is down 10% in 2 days after an earnings report. That was mixed, admittedly, but I don't think the long-term story changes at all in terms of global brands, led by Vans, which we were just talking about, also the North Face. I also think there's margin upside, and I think that the earnings algorithm has not changed at all. 13 to 14% earnings growth, 7-8% revenue growth over the long term, $8 billion free cash flow, trades at 23 times forward. Nike and Puma trade at 32 times. So in that same space, this one I think you're now getting at a discount to the group. So I'm going to buy it. I bought it this morning. I bought it on Friday. I'm probably going to continue to buy it on weakness, so I like it.
It was interesting. I was surprised to see the Vans trend weakening a little bit because of what we've been talking about.
16% versus 23% last quarter. However, they did say on the call, as I'm sure you heard, September, October actually saw a pickup in acceleration. So I don't think that brand is dead by any means.
You don't want to worry about that. Okay, got it. Thank you, Stephanie. Well, here we go. We just have about 17 minutes left to go before the closing bell, rather. The S&P is on pace for a record close. We are at 3,040 and change. Coming up next, uninterrupted coverage of the final minutes of trade will take you inside the market zone. That's when closing bell comes right back.
Floor 32, last one. Computers sleep peacefully, bins full of the day, vacuum follows faithfully. A forgotten desk lamp, switch it off, let it rest. Outside, black softens to deep blue, hinting at the day to come. Time to pack up, to disappear once more. Sausage and egg McMuffin awaits.
Over 700 McDonald's open 24 hours. We are awake.
Hey NFL fans, can't watch the game? Can't be there? No biggie. With your TuneIn Premium membership, you have unlimited access to every team and every game in the league. Listen live as it happens or on demand. Anytime, anywhere. All season long. Search NFL today.
Swinging a long drive, left field. He's got one now. Kurt Suzuki gives the Nationals the lead.
The excitement of the Fall Classic is here, and you can hear every call of the 2019 World Series on TuneIn Premium. The action continues this Tuesday with Game 6 between the NL champion Washington Nationals and American League champion Houston Astros. Listen live at 8 Eastern as two of Major League Baseball's most storied franchises look to bring home the World Series title. The 2019 World Series is on TuneIn Premium.
Get social with TuneIn. Follow TuneIn on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to discover what's happening in the app and around the world. Be the first to know about upcoming games and the hottest new music. Follow at TuneIn and always be in the know.
MSNBC is on TuneIn. Get up-to-the-minute coverage on news and events from around the world with MSNBC's live 24/7 station on TuneIn. At home or on the go, stay up to date on the latest news and political trends with MSNBC's full lineup of shows, including Hardball with Chris Matthews.
Hi, I'm Chris Matthews. Thanks for listening to MSNBC on TuneIn.
And The Rachel Maddow Show. Plus, when news breaks, MSNBC has you covered with live updates, expert analysis, and more. Search MSNBC on TuneIn today.
From the TuneIn Studios, I'm Fonseca with the Daily Sports Update. Garrett Cole and the Houston Astros went to Washington hoping to snap out of their funk and bring the World Series back to Minute Maid Park. Not only are they heading home with more games to play, now they're just one win from another crown. Cole gave Houston a firm grip on this series by beating the Nationals 7-1 Sunday night for a 3-2 lead. Game 6 is Tuesday evening right here on TuneIn. And the first pitch is at 8 p.m. Eastern right here on TuneIn. That's your TuneIn Sports Update.
You love TuneIn for live breaking news from CNN, MSNBC, Fox, CNBC, and more. But when you can't catch your favorite show as it airs, it might just be a click away as a podcast. Search your favorite news station to explore all the on-demand news shows on TuneIn.
What if you could keep up with cable news even when you're on the go? With TuneIn Premium, you can listen to MSNBC live without any commercial interruptions. All of the news, none of the ads. Listen live on TuneIn Premium today.
Right now, instead of hearing this, you could be listening to the music that keeps you moving with TuneIn Premium. Find today's biggest songs and all of your favorites commercial-free. Visit TuneIn.com/premium to upgrade.
With a news alert from Washington, Elon Moy has those details. Hi, Elon.
Hi, Courtney. Well, the House will now vote on Thursday on its impeachment inquiry into President Trump. Now, this move comes as a reversal for House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, who just about 2 weeks ago said that impeachment inquiry vote would not be needed, is not required by the Constitution. Now she is saying that she wants to vote to affirm this impeachment inquiry. She said that they are taking the step to eliminate any doubt as to whether the Trump administration may withhold documents, prevent witness testimony, disregard duly authorized subpoenas, or continue obstructing the House of Representatives. She said no one is above the law. Now, taking this vote does allow the House and Democrats to combat a key talking point that President Trump and congressional Republicans have had, which is that they're doing this impeachment inquiry in secret. This vote would also lay out the procedure for opening up hearings in the future as the House continues its investigation. Now, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi setting up a pivotal vote in Congress on Thursday on the impeachment inquiry. Guys?
Thank you very much, Elon, for that important news alert. Well, here we go. We have less than 12 minutes left in this trading day. We are now in the closing bell market zone. This is commercial-free coverage of all the action going into the close.
CNBC senior markets commentator Mike Santoli is here to break down the crucial moments of the day. And we've also got Stephanie Link from Nuveen here as well. We should point out once again, we are on record all-time closing high watch for the S&P 500. Bob Pisani is here on the stock exchange floor. The stock exchange floor to break it all down for us. Bob.
I am here on the stock exchange floor. New highs for the S&P, but not a lot of big breakouts. A small smattering. Let me show you. Banks have been doing well since yields bottomed a few weeks ago. Earnings have been out. Here, PNC Financial, new high every day. Some of the other ones out there, BBT, Bank of America, JP Morgan. But that's about it. I'm waiting for some of the other regionals to break out. Not happening yet. Small smattering of industrial stocks at new high. Illinois Toolworks just out with their earnings a short while ago. That's a new high. Cummins, Dover, Sherwin-Williams at new highs. I don't think we're going to get a lot of breakouts here unless we get a breakout on the China trade talks. Then you'll see a lot of those industrials at new highs. Very small group of tech stocks breaking out here. Semiconductor capital equipment stocks have been doing well. Lam Research had a terrific report last week. KLA 10 Core also at a new high. But who cares as long as you have Apple at a new high. In fact, I think there's a new law now. Apple has to hit a high virtually every day. That has been the new high market leader now for the past 2 weeks. Guys, back to you.
Thank you, Bob. Still under $250 a share, but getting close for Apple. Well, Tiffany stock, that's also popping, hitting a fresh 52-week high today and leading the S&P 500 after French luxury group LVMH confirmed it has held at least preliminary talks about acquiring Tiffany. Reports suggest $120 a share and nearly $14.5 billion. It's trading up 31% at $129 per share. This would be the largest acquisition to date by LVMH, which is owned by France's richest man, Bernard Arnault. Diamond retailer Signet Jewelers, that's up slightly today, moving in symphony with Tiffany stock, but other luxury jewelry watch names, those are moving as well. They're traded overseas, but Ferragamo, Swatch, Pandora, perhaps, Mike, I don't know, there's some hope that there's consolidation coming and other deals to be announced with these other names moving on.
Yeah, it seems a little bit of a connect the dots move, although there's also so many specific factors, it seems, by this potential bid by LVMH, right? Some relationships with Tiffany and people there. It just seems like a relatively unique asset. I'm not sure exactly what it says, although it certainly says that at least in some quarters, CEO confidence is fine. Because if you're willing to take a bet on a company, as leverage to the consumer and high-end consumer as Tiffany's is, it shows a little bit of confidence.
That's a good point, and it's not a small acquisition should it actually happen.
We've got 8 minutes left to trade. At the moment, the S&P 500 set for a record all-time closing high. The NASDAQ just a point or two away from one itself. Let's get to Josh Lipton, who's been looking at the story of Fitbit, which is surging today.
So, CNBC confirming that Alphabet did make an offer to buy Fitbit, and Fitbit's soaring on that news. Now, it isn't clear how much the offer was for, but the deal would make Alphabet a player in wearable fitness tracking, competing against big-name rivals like Apple. As for Alphabet earnings after the close here, we're looking for Q3 EPS of $12.42 on revenue of $40.32 billion. SunTrust Youssef Scully tells me his checks indicate core search and ad spending trends remain very solid in the quarter, so he expects net revenue growth of more than 20%. He also emphasizes, though, that this company is in investment mode on everything from the cloud to self-driving cars, and that could weigh on the bottom line. He sees EPS dropping 9% year over year. Guys, back to you.
Josh, are they already a player in the fitness software space? Google.
So the big deal here, Wolf, would be that they obviously licensed their OS to their operating system to other players, but this would be a whole new ballgame for them to get into smartwatches in this way. For Fitbit, obviously, a big move too. That stock has been under a lot of pressure as it tries to compete with Apple. You get a kind of big name company with the kind of cash that Alphabet has behind you. It's a whole different story, obviously.
Josh, thank you. Steph, what's your take on this one?
It's not a bad concept on wearables, but I would much rather see them make a big acquisition in cloud, because that's only $8 billion in a run rate revenue basis right now. And so they're definitely a distant number 3 in cloud. That's where I want to see the M&A for this company. But tonight, it's all about sites revenue, 20% or plus higher, and margins. We know they're coming down. Are they going to be down more than 200 basis points? That is the key.
A lot of things to watch in that report, certainly for Alphabet, and that Fitbit news sort of gave us one more thing to watch out for. Well, shares of AT&T hitting a 52-week high in today's session after reporting earnings this morning. Julie Borston has more on that. Hi, Julia.
Courtney, that's right. AT&T shares rising off the company's better-than-expected guidance through the year 2022. AT&T unveiling a 3-year financial and capital allocation plan that's drawn support from activist Elliott Management. The stock up 4.5%, while revenue fell short of projections, dropping from a year earlier, while earnings beat expectations by a penny per share. AT&T did lose more streaming and TV subscribers than expected, down by nearly 1.4 million in the quarter. Now, coming up after the bell, we'll see how T-Mobile's subscriber base is faring. It is expected to grow revenue by about 4.5% and earnings 3% from the year-ago quarter. And analysts project the company will add nearly 1.4 million mobile subscribers. Back over to you.
Julia, thanks very much. Mike, I guess AT&T giving T-Mobile that little bit of a tougher setup today ahead of its numbers.
Yes, it would, obviously. I mean, there's sort of one-off factors with T-Mobile anyway, but I think the gesture by AT&T of just sort of financial discipline or refocusing on some of the things that matter to investors is probably what you're seeing in the stock.
We are about 5 minutes left from the close. We are on record close watch. S&P looks set to hit one. NASDAQ just shy of it at the moment. Coming up after the close, we'll also get results from Beyond Meat, and Leslie Picker's having a look at a preview of that. Leslie.
Hey, well, not a bad day to report. Analysts are expecting Beyond Meat to turn a profit of about 3 cents per share with revenue of $82 million. That stock, though, has faced some pressure, cut in half from its July peak on concerns about additional share supply hitting the market, which hampers Beyond Meat's scarcity value. The last time Beyond Meat reported quarterly numbers, if you recall, the stock took a nosedive after the company announced a secondary offering. Tomorrow, Beyond Meat will release nearly 49 million shares from their lockup agreement. The company may need a strong enough beat today to compensate for some of those share supply concerns, although that stock up about 4% heading into the close, guys.
Thank you very much, Leslie. That stock has been up. It's been down, but of course, like she pointed out, Stephanie, cut about in half from its highs at least.
I fear that if they have a good quarter, you're going to have sellers into it. If they don't have a good quarter, you might have the sellers wait for a little bit. So I'm not sure what I'm rooting for at this point.
Yeah.
I want to hear about some of the deals with McDonald's and Wendy's and the other companies. That's going to be more important for the long-term strategy of the.
Is profitability important at this point if it turns that or if it doesn't?
It's a good sign for sure, right? But the expectations are that they will. Next year is the bigger jump from this year for sure.
Well, Mirati Therapeutics is gearing up to present the first data on its cancer drug this afternoon. Meg Sherrill has more details on this. Hi, Meg.
Hey, Courtwell. This is a classic biotech potentially binary event. Mirati Therapeutics is developing a cancer drug that competes with one from Amgen, and the stock is traded largely on reactions to Amgen's data going back to the big ASCO Cancer Research Conference in June. Well, today at about 4:20 p.m. Eastern, we'll see Mirati's first data on its drug. Analysts say the stock could swing big in either direction based on the results. Leerink has the biggest potential moves, up 70% on good data, down 60% on bad, but many expect they'll come in somewhere in the middle. Just a few minutes away, guys, and we'll bring those to you. Wolf, back to you.
Meg, thanks so much for that. We've got 3 minutes left of trade, and we are just off a record all-time closing high for the NASDAQ. The number to keep an eye on for the NASDAQ, 8330. We are just 4 points below that at the moment. The S&P comfortably set for a record all-time closing high. The Dow still around 1% or so from its own level. Mike's been looking at the market internals so far today. Mike, what stands out?
Yeah, you know, obviously the index has been levitating all day, but breadth has lagged a little bit. Take a look at New York Stock Exchange up and down stocks. It's actually not that far above, kind of half and half, which shows you there's a lot of the recent winners being sold. If you looked at the the stocks in the red today. It's a lot of defensive stocks, home builders, some of the stuff that's really been a winner. And now also take a look just in terms of style as the high beta against low volatility. These ETFs are an interesting risk appetite gauge. Obviously, high beta, the more aggressive stocks really outperforming today as well as over the last week. That tells you the flavor, but also the VIX has been stubborn. It's right around 13. It has not given you new lows for this run, even as the S&P is hitting a new record. It shows you people are a little wary of the idea that this new high might not be something to buy with both hands. We'll see how that goes.
Well, we've got 2 minutes left to go, so we're going to send it over to Rick Santelli. He's got a check on the bond market for us. Hi, Rick.
Hi, 2-year note yields are up 2 basis points, but 10s, they settled at 180 on Friday. They're up 4 basis points. As a matter of fact, look at the 1-week chart. Finally, we broke above that 180. And if you look at the chart starting at the last Fed meeting, we're at 176 when the Fed eased. We are now higher as our 30s. Finally, month to date of boons. They started the month out at minus 57. They closed at minus 33. They have been firm and moving higher. Frank Holland, we were flirting with history. We just couldn't seal the deal.
Hey there. You're right. The NASDAQ on pace for its 4th positive day, just this close from a record close. Microsoft, the best performer after securing that $10 billion Jedi cloud computing contract from the Pentagon. However, Amazon is expected to challenge it. Chips and tech stocks really trading higher today. In fact, the SMH trading hit an all-time high today. Also, other tech stocks like Align and AMD, KLA also getting a boost. Transports on the other side of things. CSX, one of the worst performers in the NASDAQ 100 after reporting lower weekly volumes. Now over to Bob Pisani at the New York Stock Exchange.
Frank, Virgin Galactic started with a bang, but ending very quietly. So remember, we closed Friday at $11.79. That was the SPAC. Started trading this morning, got as high as $12.93, and is well off of that right now. $11, and as you can see here, 89 cents. So we're a little bit above where we were on Friday. Regardless, the public loves space in general. A lot of retail interest in that. They like Richard Branson as well. You're going to hear a lot more about space in the coming months and years. And there's the closing bell. The S&P 500 closing at a record high, 30.39. S&P 500 up 127 points.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the closing bell. I'm Wilfred Frost.
And I'm Courtney Reagan in for Sarah Eisen, along with Mike Santoli, CNBC senior markets commentator.
Let's check in on where the market closed at record all-time highs for the S&P 500. 3039.28, eclipsing the 3025.9. That was the most recent record high hit on the 26th of July this year. The NASDAQ just a couple of points of its own record high. The Dow and the Russell still a little way from their levels. About 0.5% of gains for the Dow and the S&P. The NASDAQ up a full percent. Tech and communication services, the best performing sectors.
It's going to be quite an hour. You're going to want to make sure to stick with us because we're still going to get earnings from Alphabet, Beyond Meat, and T-Mobile. We're going to break down those numbers as soon as they cross. Joining us to talk about the market day, Stephanie Link. She's head of global equities research at Nuveen. She's still with us, along with Sylvia Jablonski. She's managing director at Direxion. Mike, all right, here we go. We did it. We got a record closing high in the S&P, not quite for the NASDAQ.
A record for the S&P, and also it did it in the way that this rally has proceeded all along. Very orderly, kind of a, I don't want to call it a melt-up, but it's essentially just about a relaxation of some of the concerns that we were in late summer. Earnings, just fine. I mean, not great, but definitely plausible that this is a trough in earnings. Growth might reaccelerate. You're going to get a third Fed rate cut most likely this week. And that, I think the market is now saying, might be enough to kind of allay the fears that we're at the end of a cycle.
And Stephanie, what's your take in terms of the fact that tech has led this higher once again today? Will that have to be the case to see us push higher still for the rest of the year?
I think it has to participate for sure. It can't crumble, that's for sure, right? It's 26% of the S&P 500 in terms of market cap, market weighting. But if these other cyclical sectors start to continue to improve, because they've started already, as Mike alluded to before, I think that's a very healthy rotation, and that'll lead to a healthy market environment. One interesting thing about earnings so far, we've seen CapEx grow 3%. That's versus 2% last quarter. Now, I know a lot of that is Amazon, so people are going to poo-poo it. But I'll tell you, I think CapEx numbers have bottomed, and that is a very positive development in the marketplace. It's not priced in.
That was something you were watching along with IT spending.
Yes, that's exactly right.
A key look for you for some time, so that's a positive. Sylvia, what about seasonality? You know, that's something we haven't really talked about yet on the show, but we're in this period of time where the market does tend to go higher, especially from what I understand from LPL Financial, even just the last couple days of October and beginning of November among the strongest days of the year.
Absolutely. Seasonality is a big factor now, and I think we're seeing actually some of that in tech. We're seeing that in some of the consumer discretionary like Amazon, although earnings were low. You know, the consumers are out there spending, and I think it's going to show up in Apple earnings and some of the other big tech names, as well as some of the consumer discretionary names as well.
Mike, in terms of the sort of broad macro factors, you wrote earlier, subtraction of all fears. Nothing's kind of particularly positive in its own right, but none of them are negative.
Right. Probably not the most exciting movie, but the subtraction of all fears was, you know, we were worried about the yield curve being upside down with long rates below short rates. We were worried about these signs that recession was right around the corner. Even the trade thing, I mean, it's kind of gone to the side. I don't think you needed a big deal in detail, but you just needed de-escalation. So those things have essentially drained away from the market, and it's allowed, I think, some of the more beaten up parts of the market to come back. I don't think it makes sense to think of it as a zero-sum game. It's either growth and defensives or it's value cyclicals. A lot of things can work, and I think you have very low volumes, but also no real selling intensity up here. I put all that up against the pattern of hitting a new high with a Fed meeting. The breakouts to new highs have not really lasted very long in the last 20 months or so. So I think that's the history that has to be proven wrong if this is going to last.
Should mention that Beyond Meat's trading lower after hours. We'll have those earnings in just a moment. T-Mobile EPS looks like a beat, and we'll have that for you in just a moment too. Sylvia, sum up your take on earnings season thus far.
So I think it's, as Mike said, I think it's sort of just fine. You know, we've definitely seen some standouts in earnings season, and I think today will be really interesting. We'll see if some of these, you know, some of the positive momentum comes into T-Mobile and comes into, you know, Apple going forward, some of these big names. But I think it's sort of been just fine. It shows us that we're probably not heading into a recession. The economy is plugging along. We've got another potential Fed cut. China trade tariffs are looking a little bit more positive, and I think that's keeping things going through the rest of the year.
Sylvia, as we've looked at sort of some of the movers in October, some of the big contributors for the S&P 500, tech and banks, do you think those are going to be the names that are going to continue the leadership?
I think tech is looking pretty good to continue the leadership. You know, we heard this news about Microsoft getting the defense spending bill for $10 billion. They had the 11% dividend, the $40 billion buyback. You know, Apple's hitting all-time highs again. The iPhone 11's looking pretty good. Some of these tech names are just continuing to rally and push up the index. So we have to keep looking at it and expecting positive results there.
Alphabet now, as well, as you can see, is trading down 2.5% in after hours. Looks on the headline like an EPS miss. We'll have all of those earnings reports, a deep dive into each of them in just a moment. Mike, the other factor for the market today, you mentioned it, with the expectation of a rate cut, is a steepening of the yield curve again, and the longer end yields are staying up, and banks have enjoyed a bid because of that.
Absolutely. Banks are definitely taking part in that. I think if you got some kind of message from the Fed that they're on hold and no more rate cuts to come in the foreseeable, at least several months, banks will probably take that well. Also, and implicitly, the bond market is saying we think that they maybe stuck the landing here because longer-term yields are suggesting you're going to get a reacceleration in growth. This all can change, right? Because it just changed over the last 2 months. But I think right now, that's pretty much the takeaway.
Okay, let's get to Alphabet numbers. Josh Lipton's been diving into them for us. Josh.
Alphabet reporting EPS here of $10.12. The street was at $12.42. Revenue, though, $40.5 billion. Analysts had modeled $40.3 billion. Just looking quickly through the segments here. Well, Google Properties revenue about $28.6 billion. Google Ad revenues $33.9 billion. Google Other revenues, remember that would include the cloud, $6.4 billion. Other Bets revenues $155 million. Other Bets operating loss around $941 million. Total TAC in the quarter, $7.5 billion, about 22% of Google Ad revenues. Paid clicks look like they jumped year over year, 18%. Cost per click down about 2%. Guys, back to you.
Okay, Josh, thanks so much for that. Mike, looks like a slight miss in the properties revenues. But clearly the bigger miss is on the EPS line, and that's probably what's moving the shares.
No, without a doubt. I mean, that EPS estimate had come up over the course of the quarter, too. So I do think maybe in that respect, people were leaning in the direction of it was in the bag. But, yeah, you have to look below the surface always, though.
But if you look at and adjust for the Uber mark-to-market, that's probably a $1 to $1.5 billion hit. So the headline earnings number is going to look worse. If you adjust for it, it actually looks a lot better. What I want to know is about the margins, because that was the other thing. I think sites are fine, but the margins are a big deal. But I think that headline is I think it's a little misleading.
And cloud, I think Josh was saying the segment that includes cloud, $6.4 billion. Last quarter was at 6.18.
Yeah.
So that's a number we're
With all the reason they have acquisitions in cloud, because they are falling behind for sure, right? I mean, Microsoft's at Amazon's at 35 billion, Microsoft's at 20 billion, and Google Alphabet is at 8 billion. They have to do something, and they have the cash to do it. They do. So that's the frustrating part.
But Fitbit, they definitely have the cash to buy as well. Sylvia, what's your take on this?
So I think we were looking for a 4% growth in EPS, and we didn't see that, so that's a little disappointing. But I think we have to see what comes out now. You know, will there be any sort of repurchase? Google is very cash heavy right now. They could announce a big repurchase, which would be interesting. CapEx could be going up to capture some more cloud business. And I think we're hoping to see that Google would take more of Amazon and Microsoft's business. You know, with the defense announcement this morning, they sort of didn't get that. So I think, remains to be seen. But they've had awesome growth in cloud. They've had awesome growth with YouTube, with ads. Although it's not as high as expected, it is going up. So remains to be seen how it is for the rest of the year.
I believe we now have T-Mobile earnings. Those are out, and Julia Borston has the numbers for us. Hi, Julia.
Hi, Courtney. Earnings beating estimates coming in at $1.01 per share. That's 5 cents better than analyst estimates. Revenues missing estimates. Revenues for the quarter $11.06 billion versus expectations of $11.33 billion. Now, if you look at the net additions, though, this is a key metric of customer growth, well better than expected. 1.7 million net customer additions in the quarter versus 1.37 million, which was projected. And the company also raising its guidance for the full year, saying that for the full year 2019, they expect between 4.1 and 4.3 million net additions. Also raising the bottom end of the earnings guidance, raising the lower end of that. So looks like the guidance for Q4 is strong there. You see T-Mobile sort of hovering around the flat line, trading pretty much flat. Courtney, back over to you.
Thank you very much, Julia. Steph, what do you make of these results? It looks like next year, but the guidance is pretty good, both for the net additions and for the...
Net additions is good. I think this is all about Sprint and the deal, right? And you have to wait and see what happens there, because if it doesn't happen, which there's only about a 30-40% chance that it does get approved, if it doesn't, does that mean that T-Mobile is now a takeout candidate? So I think it's going to have support either way. Stock's up 29% on the year. So, I mean, it's had a nice run, too. So for it just to hang in here today, that's very telling.
Yeah, but I think, EPS and net adds both very strong, but we should remember it was up already during the session off the back of AT&T doing similar positive sort of upgrades to guidance, which is what T-Mobile then matched today. Let's get to Beyond Meat. The results are out. Leslie Picker's got them for us.
Hey, well, Beyond Meat reporting its first ever quarter of positive net income here. EPS of about 6 cents per diluted share versus the 3 cents that analysts were estimating, so about double on the bottom line. On the revenue front, $92 million, also a beat compared with $82 million that analysts were expecting here. They also raised their guidance for fiscal year 2019. Now they're expecting net revenue to be in the range between $265 million to $275 million. That compares with the